I love Once Upon a Time as much as the next fantasy enthusiast. I just have one problem with this show. It's impossible. ABC's Once Upon a Time has several logical abnormalities, but one of the biggest by far is simply with the concept of the show itself. In Once Upon a Time, the evil Queen Regina casts the Dark Curse, a curse which takes everyone who lives in the fairy tale world, known as the Enchanted Forest, and transports them to ours. Specifically, to a magically created town called Storybrooke, which is somewhere in Maine. The curse erases all fairy tale characters' memories and makes them regular citizens of the world's most boring town, with the evil queen as mayor. Now from the outset, this presents something of a problem. Namely, how do they all fit there? Based on the population of the real-world equivalent of Storybrooke, Steveston, Canada, we know that Storybrooke would probably service about 24,000 people, but the fairy tale world has to hold many, many more than that. The Dark Curse affects every single individual in every different kingdom in every little village. How could everyone possibly all fit into a town that's built for 24,000 people? Characters in the show already say how there aren't any vacancies in Storybrooke, but they should literally be living on the sidewalks and streets because there is no way you are fitting an entire dimension's inhabitants into one town. If Storybrooke was larger and had skyscrapers and multi-floored buildings, then yes, it would be possible. But as it is, most buildings in the town are 3 stories or less. On a less scientific note though, isn't it a little weird that this gigantic, scary curse which Regina spends all this time and effort to cast really doesn't work? The whole point of the curse is to rob everyone of their happy endings, but by my estimation, the only people who are actually unhappy because of the curse are Red Riding Hood, Granny, the Magic Mirror, Grumpy, and, ironically enough, Regina. Practically everyone else in town seems completely happy with their lives and their work. The evil queen could have picked any number of wicked scenarios to inflict, but all she managed to do was mildly annoy 5 people, including herself. For pity's sake, because of the curse, her arch-nemesis Snow White is now a teacher of all the kids in Storybrooke, including her own adopted son. Plus, the curse actually saved Prince Charming from dying, and evidently rescued the Mad Hatter from Wonderland. Look, I'm sorry, but that is just poor tactics on Regina's part. These aren't the only logical errors, however. The next thing to take into account is the fairy tale characters themselves. Despite what the Walt Disney Company might like you to believe, these fairy tale characters and stories existed for hundreds of years before they were made into films. Stories like Snow White, Rumpelstiltskin, or Pinocchio are all fables that the children of our world have grown up reading and hearing about, and this presents 2 big problems. 1. How could the creators of these stories have told people about something that was happening in a completely different dimension? And even if they were somehow able to travel to the fairy tale world, they still wouldn't know about Snow White or Little Red Riding Hood, because most of these stories wouldn't have happened yet. The story of Snow White, for instance, originated in our world around the 1800s. But it only happened about 30 years ago in the Enchanted Forest, when the curse first occurs. Basically, a logical look at this scenario necessitates our believing that all fairy tale tellers are magical dimension-hopping time travelers, which would actually be kind of cool. Yeah, that's definitely the most fun way to resolve this issue. Another problem I found is with time travel as a whole. The laws of magic state that it's impossible to change the past or travel through time, and the only people who've ever been able to come close are Jafar from Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, and Zelena the Wicked Witch in the 3rd season of Once Upon a Time. However, in actuality, the relatively minor character of the Mad Hatter breaks this law effortlessly. Near the end of the 1st season of Once Upon a Time, Regina and the Mad Hatter seem to have no problem using the Mad Hatter's hat for time travel to grab a magic apple from the past. The White Rabbit from Wonderland breaks this law even more times, since he keeps traveling between the 1800s and the present day in our world, then back to whenever in Wonderland. This makes even less sense when we know that the Red Queen wanted to change history and was already blackmailing the White Rabbit. She could have just made him take her back in time. Whatever, different show. Finally, I want to point out my biggest problem by far in the logical errors department. If they use a name at all, the fairy tale characters always reference our world as the land without magic. That's the big selling point for our world. Magic doesn't work there. The only problem is, it's a complete lie. For one thing, Regina's secret vault is full of potions which are demonstrated many times to be able to work magic even during the curse. Regina also demonstrates that her enchanted hearts can control people such as the Huntsman. Thirdly, and most importantly, the Dark Curse itself. I'll buy the idea that the curse can create a town, organize everyone in that town, and teleport them to our world. But why does erasing their memories work? The amnesia that most fairy tale characters have is more than established to have been created by magical means, but since there isn't any magic in The Land Without Magic, everyone, not just the awesome characters, should have gotten their memory back immediately on arriving in our world. Rumpelstiltskin's bottled true love can't work, even if it is the most powerful magic ever. Pinocchio should not have been turning back into wood, and Emma should have had no curse to break. Even if we accept what the Red Queen says in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, that magical waters run under all the realms, that only furthers the fact that the land without magic is the world's most inaccurate name ever. A more direct name would be the land which is sort of without magic, except for potions, wells, amnesia, curses, transmutation, bottled true love, dragons, floating Mr. Miyagi, and clock repair, so basically we totally have magic and stuff. Much better title, don't you agree?